Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I bring to you some disturbing news coming from the USA to the Caribbean. The United States of America, through its Department of State, has threatened Caribbean leaders to either dump Cuba, get rid of Cuba, or their visas, their US visas, will be revoked. Yes, you heard me right. The United States of America, through its Department of State, wrote to the Caribbean leaders demanding that they either get rid of Cuba, do not work with Cuba, do not have anything to do with Cuba, or their US visas will be revoked. And I have evidence of this, my friends. I'm going to give you the evidence now, and I will come back with my analysis. This is the Foreign Minister of Barbados, Kerry Simons, in Parliament in Barbados, speaking to this very serious threat that was sent by the United States of America to the Caribbean. This is breaking news. This has never happened before, my friends. Caribbean leaders see the US, Canada, and the UK as their friends. But this is what Kerry Simons, the Foreign Minister of Barbados, said in Parliament the other day, several days ago. Have a listen, and I will come back with more evidence of the letters that the US State Department sent to the Caribbean leaders. Have a listen.
Today, the Secretary of State of the United States of America served notice on all of us that those of us who have relationships with the medical practitioners, whether it be nurses or doctors, whoever in Cuba, and are going to have them working in your country, will no longer be able to have access to US visas. That is the climate within which we now function. And so therefore it is vitally important that as triangle holes are applied on areas and to countries with whom we have been able to build partnerships, that we ensure we have a menu of options.
That was the Foreign Minister of Barbados speaking to this very serious matter of the United States of America. Marco Rubio, the director of the US State Department, sent letters to the Caribbean leaders, and several leaders would have confirmed they would have received such letters demanding that they end their relationship with Cuba or face their US visa being revoked, my friends. And I am just going to read from the US State Department website, and this is dated February 25th, and it is headlined saying expansion of visa restrictions policy for individuals exploiting Cuban labor. This is the headline of the press statement. Let me read again. The expansion of visa restrictions policy for individuals exploiting Cuban labor. So the US State Department see the Caribbean leaders, heads of state, as individuals. They don't care. They don't have any respect for them. This is what the statement is saying. Today, February 25th, today, February 25th, 2025, we announce the expansion of an existing Cuba-related visa restriction policy that targets forced labor linked to the Cuban labor export program. This expanded policy applies to current or former Cuban government officials and other individuals, including foreign government officials who are believed to be responsible for or involved in the Cuban labor export program, particularly The expanded policy applies to current or former Cuban government officials and other individuals, including foreign government officials, who are believed to be responsible for, involved in the Cuban labor export program, particularly Cuba's overseas medical missions. This policy also applies to the immediate family of such persons. The department has already taken steps to impose visa restrictions on several individuals, including Venezuelans, under this expanded policy. Cuba continues to profit from the forced labor of its workers and the regime's abusive and coercive labor practices that are well documented. Cuba's labor export program, which includes the medical missions, enrich the Cuban regime, and in case of Cuba's overseas medical missions, deprive ordinary Cubans of medical care they desperately need in their home country. The United States is committed to countering forced labor practices around the globe. To do so, we must promote accountability not just for Cuban officials responsible for these policies, but also those complicit in the exploitation and forced labor of Cuban workers. The visa restriction policy is taken pursuant to Section 212A3C of the Immigration Nationality Act. This is a very serious statement coming from the US State Department, my friends, a direct threat to Caribbean leaders, my friends. This is no joke. They said the visa restriction policy will be applied to government ministers in the Caribbean, along with the immediate family, their children, their mother, their father, their auntie, their uncle, cousins, which will be a lot of people. And the US is smart, because if, let's say, the government continue to work with Cuba's medical missions or other programs that the Cubans have in place, whether agriculture, medicine, whatever it is, the US can impose visa restrictions on family members of politicians, and this will force pressure. The family members will bring pressure upon the politicians to dump Cuba. They will either dump Cuba or risk a US visa. What do you think most Caribbean politicians will do? My guess is that they will dump Cuba. They will dump Cuba for a US visa, because most Caribbean leaders love traveling to the US and staying in luxury hotels, flying first class, staying in luxury apartments, luxury restaurants, eating the finest food, being carried around in absolute luxury in the United States. They love this. So my guess is that Cuba will be dumped by the Caribbean leaders. Those who stand up, one or two may stand up. My suggestion to you is to bridge the gap between the African continent and the African diaspora. I have been saying this for a long time. Now that things have changed, I hope my message will resonate more with Caribbean leaders. Let us get direct flights from the continent of Africa to the Caribbean. Let us start trading along the Atlantic Ocean to the Caribbean. Let's get those big ships moving goods from Africa to the Caribbean. Reduce dependency on the United States of America, Canada, and Europe. Let us bridge that gap So then once we bridge that gap, then you can say let the US keep their visas. We already have direct flights to Africa. We have all the food and resources coming from Africa. We are exchanging labor between the African continent and the Caribbean island nations, which makes a part of the diaspora. The diaspora includes Caribbean nation islands, African Americans, Afro-Europeans, Afro-Canadians, Africans in South America and Central America. We are a massive community. Let us not be afraid of the United States of America. America is one country. How strong can they be? They are already fighting their friends. They're fighting with Europe. They're fighting with Canada. So the US is now tied down in a fight with their own friends. So, my friends, now is the time to strike. Let us bind together and bridge that gap between the African continent and the African diaspora. We are one people separated by a brutal European slave trade and colonialism. But those days are over, my friends. This is a sign that those days are coming to a crashing end. Let us embrace the possibilities of what can happen if we bridge that gap and work together with our brothers and sisters in the African continent, African Americans, Africans in the Caribbean. Let us all work together. That is the mission of this channel, started 5 years ago, was to bridge that gap between the African continent and the African diaspora. The African continent is 54 African countries. Kenya, South Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Ethiopia, Zambia, Uganda, Mozambique, Angola, Egypt, Tanzania, Botswana, Namibia, Lesotho, Eswatini, Gabon, Benin, Congo, DRC Congo, Algeria, Rwanda, Burundi. You want me to name more? Zimbabwe, the African diaspora, Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Kitts and Nevis, Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, Grenada, St. Lucia, Montserrat, Anguilla, U.S. Virgin Islands. The U.S. Virgin Islands is a bunch of islands owned by the U.S., but it's all black people live on those islands. Don't let them fool you. British Virgin Islands, same thing. All black people living on those islands. We own those islands. We should name them the African Islands. African Americans. Over 30 million African Americans up there. Brazil, a massive number of Africans living in Brazil. Canada, our people is in Canada. The UK, Europe, South and Central America, Belize. My friends, Colombia. We are unstoppable force, my friends, if we work together and bridge that gap between the African continent and the African diaspora. Let me know what you think about this video today. Comment your thoughts and opinion on what you think about this topic of the US threats to revoke Caribbean leaders' visa if they don't get rid of Cuba. If they don't dump Cuba, US is going to revoke their visas. Let me know what you think about that. And you can also become a channel member and support this worthy journey of bridging the gap between the African continent and the African diaspora by becoming a member of my channel. The link is in this description box. I also have a travel channel. I hopefully will be traveling soon this year, and I'll be doing a lot of travel vlogs when I'm throughout Africa on that channel. Beyond Travel, the link is in that description box. Go on over and subscribe to that channel, join my channel and become a member, and let us together bridge that gap between the African continent and the African diaspora. I post videos every day. Sorry about that. I post videos every day about our people, breaking news that affect our people on the African continent and the African diaspora. So of course, my friends, thank you for watching this video today. If you're watching for the first time, please consider subscribing to the channel. Like this video, share it with all your friends and family, and of course I'll see you again tomorrow in the next video. Much love and thank you for watching.